TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom ve'erev tov, good evening. Welcome to our daily TV7 Israel News Bulletin broadcast from Jerusalem. The Israeli Airforce successfully eliminates the commander of Hamas's Izzeldin al-Qassam Brigades, the last living mastermind of the October 7th massacre. President Donald Trump warns the Ayatollah regime that the time for them to accept a negotiated solution is running out. And the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps is training supporters of the Ayatollah regime throughout Iran, fearing yet another domestic uprising. Arch-terrorist Izzeldin al-Haddad, commander of the Islamist Hamas military wing, the Izzeldin al-Qassam Brigades, was successfully eliminated in a targeted aerial assault over the weekend, essentially removing the last of the living masterminds that had planned and executed the massacres against Israeli civilians on October 7th of 2023. According to reports, 3 combat aircraft struck the apartment of Haddad that had been used as a safe house, as well as several vehicles in the area to prevent possible escape. Haddad's wife and one of his sons were reportedly also killed alongside him. Meanwhile, the elimination, which undoubtedly serves as a blow to Hamas's morale, triggered an attempt by the internationally designated terrorist organization to win the narrative, claiming that the elimination of the man responsible for coordinating the kidnappings of Israeli civilians and IDF troops on October 7th was yet another blatant violation of the ceasefire.
Hamas grieves with the masses of our Palestinian people, our Arab and Islamic nation, and every free person in this world. The commander-in-chief of al-Qassam Brigades, martyr Izzeldin al-Haddad, who was killed in an Israeli strike in the heart of Gaza City. This is a serious and unprecedented violation of the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, for which the occupation authorities and the U.S. administration supporting them bear responsibility. This is also an expression of the mediators' inability to compel the occupation to implement what was agreed upon and to oblige it to stop these violations. Mr. Mladenov also bears part of this responsibility for the escalation as a result of his continued incitement against Hamas and the Palestinian resistance.
It is important to explain that the emphasis put by Hamas on the Board of Peace lead envoy Nikolai Mladenov, claiming alleged responsibility for the latest escalation, as they put it, due to his, quote, continued incitement against Hamas and the Palestinian resistance, stems from the fact that the Board of Peace is coming to terms with the fact that the Palestinian terror groups had failed to abide by their commitments to disarm and relinquish control from the little territory left under their control, a position which may trigger Article 17 of President Trump's 20-point plan, which would divert humanitarian and reconstruction activities to areas of the Gaza Strip that have been cleared entirely from Hamas control. Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, during his weekly cabinet meeting, acknowledged that the IDF had asserted control over 60% of the Gaza Strip, where the Islamist Hamas and its terror infrastructure are getting systematically eradicated.
In Gaza now, we are no longer holding 50%, but already 60%. We have Hamas in our grip. We know exactly what our mission is, and our mission is one, to ensure that Gaza will never again pose a threat to Israel, and we are carrying out this mission too with the help of our heroic soldiers. They truly are heroes. In Lebanon, in Gaza, and also in the skies of Tehran. Our fighters, our pilots, our female combatants, and our female pilots, heroes and heroines.
הלוחמות שלנו והטייסות שלנו, גיבורים וגיבורות.
Prime Minister Netanyahu further addressed the successful elimination of the arch-terrorist Izzeldin al-Haddad.
בסוף השבוע אנחנו חיסלנו את רב המרצחים עז-א-דין אל-חדד.
Over the weekend, we eliminated the master murderer Izzeldin al-Haddad. He was essentially number one in Hamas's military wing. He has been eliminated. This despicable terrorist was responsible for the murder, injury, and kidnapping of thousands of Israeli citizens and IDF soldiers. He used hostages as human shields, and he no longer exists. It is important to say that I promised two things, and the government along with me. I promised that we would return all of our hostages, down to the very last one. Down to the hero of Israel, the late Ran Gvili. And we returned them. There were doubts, but we had no doubts. We returned them. I promised a second thing, that every single architect of the massacre and the hostage-taking would be eliminated down to the last one, and we are very close to completing this mission as well.
The Israeli Prime Minister further addressed the country's challenges vis-à-vis the ongoing war against the Iranian proxy Hezbollah in Lebanon, where growing challenges are being tackled, particularly in relation to the one-way unmanned aerial systems.
From the start of the war, and of course having observed the war in Ukraine, I thought this could also serve as a tool on our battlefield. At my request, the IDF installed canopies on the tanks. That was one measure. The IDF and the Ministry of Defense have done a great deal over the years. This needs to be understood, and they have thwarted many hundreds, if not thousands, including UAVs. Thousands of attempted drone and UAV strikes against our forces. And they are succeeding. Every time there is a new threat, they succeed in neutralizing it.
Netanyahu expanded on the latest challenge facing IDF troops, namely drones laden with explosives which are connected to fiber optic cables that can reach distances of up to 10 kilometers or 6.2 miles, to which the Jerusalem government approved a budget absent any cap, highlighting the urgency of tackling the threat.
You have no budgetary constraint. Whatever cost, it will cost. You also have no limits, as far as I know, to your creativity and imagination, because you are the best in the world. Therefore, my directive to the team is to find a solution for this and for the next threat that will come. I have no doubt that Israel will be the first country, just as we have done in other fields, to deliver a complete solution to this problem as well. This requires patience and sometimes gritting our teeth, but both of these, long fortitude, determination, and the ability to stand up to the challenge, we have in abundance. We will achieve this too.
Amid rising prospects of renewed hostilities between the United States and Israel against the Ayatollah regime in Iran, as the latter continues to defiantly refuse abandoning its nuclear ambitions, among others, Prime Minister Netanyahu emphasized that Jerusalem is prepared for any scenario.
Our eyes are also wide open regarding Iran. I will speak today, as I do every few days, with our friend President Trump. I will certainly hear his impressions from his trip to China and perhaps other matters. There are certainly many possibilities. We are prepared for any scenario.
Following the subsequent phone conversation between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Donald Trump, the American leader posted on his Truth Social platform, quote, "For Iran, the clock is ticking, and they better get moving fast, or there won't be anything left of them. Time is of the essence." According to an Israeli official, once President Donald Trump authorizes renewed strikes, the IDF will once again engage shoulder to shoulder and wing to wing with their American partners at Central Command, further highlighting that the target lists continue to grow by the day. Moreover, in addition to preparations for a high-intensity kinetic engagement versus the Ayatollah regime in Iran, the United States Treasury is in the meanwhile doubling down on Operation Economic Fury, with Secretary Scott Bessent during a meeting of the G7 Finance Ministerial highlighted Washington's efforts to remind its allies to follow the sanctions regime against the terror regime in Tehran.
We come in at an important time. We're here to discuss the global economy, global imbalances, critical minerals, terror financing. I'm just back from Beijing with President Trump for a very successful visit where we talked the geopolitics, trade, and the leaders spent a great deal of time together. Tomorrow we will also be discussing sanctions and terror finance, and we call upon all our G7 and indeed all of our allies and the rest of the world to follow the sanctions regime so that we can crack down on the illicit finance that is fueling the Iranian war machine and get this money back to the Iranian people.
Meanwhile, in Iran, the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, seemingly concerned over prospects of yet another domestic upheaval that could bring an abrupt end to the Ayatollah regime, has started arming its supporters to include young children.
We have come with our family. We have even brought our grandchildren. We must all learn how to use weapons to defend our country.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News, which is made possible by the generosity of our viewers. Please keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and redemption of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you a Shavua Mevorach, and God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.